Welcome back to the new Sentinel, everybody. Chukwuka here. Today we're unpacking this thing you keep seeing online. Trump's $2,000 refund checks supposedly coming from tariffs. Now, before anyone starts planning a shopping spree, let's slow it down and make it plain.
Yeah, roger that. Some of y'all are hearing checks and thinking it's like those COVID stimulus rounds, or even Bush-era rebate checks. Different animal. Those were passed by Congress out of general tax revenue and deficit spending. This thing is pitched as, we slapped tariffs on imports, we got a big pot of cash, and now we're going to kick some of it back to you.
Right. And that's where this phrase tariff dividend comes in. The story goes, we charge extra at the border on goods from places like China and Mexico. Money flows into the Treasury, and instead of just leaving it there, the government cuts checks to American households. Senator Josh Hawley's American Worker Rebate Act is one version of how that could work.
And the marketing is powerful. You see posts saying things like, Trump's sending you $2,000, claim it now. It's framed like a reward for being the forgotten worker, the person who's been told globalization left you behind. Emotionally, it lands. But legally and practically, it is not real policy yet. There is no law on the books that guarantees anyone a refund check.
Exactly. Think of it this way. The pitch is simple TV talk. We charge foreigners, now we're giving Americans the money. But under the hood, it's complicated. We're talking maybe hundreds of billions raised from tariffs since the policy ramped up. And Trump's saying, let's carve out a chunk, send maybe around $2,000 per eligible adult, mostly under a certain income level. Nice headline, but Congress has not passed Hawley's bill. No signature, no statute, no automatic payments.
And even that bill has been kind of parked in committee, not racing toward the finish line. From a process standpoint, we're in the idea phase, plus a lot of campaign-style messaging. You can hear the speech already. We made other countries pay, now you get a check. It's politically sharp, especially with people still hurting from inflation.
From a troop-level perspective, this is classic morale play. Dangle a concrete number, $2,000, nice and round, easy to remember. But here's your situational report. As of right now, there is no authorized Trump refund check program. If anybody tells you it's guaranteed, they're either confused or they're selling you something.
And that gap between the promise and the reality is where people get hurt. Folks who missed out on past benefits or who are barely hanging on hear tariff dividend and think it's already theirs. We need to be honest. This is, at best, a proposal tied to a controversial pot of tariff money, plus a Senate bill that hasn't moved. It is not a right, it is not scheduled, and it may never materialize.
So as we go through the episode, keep two tracks in your mind. 1. The political story, the branding of these $2,000 checks. 2. The legal reality, where you still need the Supreme Court and Congress to line up before any money hits any account. Those are not small hurdles.
All right, let's talk mechanics. Because when people hear tariffs, a lot of them picture China writing a check to the U.S. Treasury. That's not really how it works.
Yeah, man. In plain English, a tariff is basically a tax on imported goods. The importer, that's your Costco, your small business bringing in parts, your big box retailers. They pay it when the goods cross the border. Then they usually raise prices to cover it. So at the end of the day, that fancy foreign tax shows up in your grocery bill or the price of your fridge.
Exactly. It's like adding weight to a rucksack. Command says, we're putting 10 extra pounds on the supply chain. Well, somebody carries it. Importers aren't just going to eat that forever. They push it down the line. Consumer at the end of the convoy takes the hit.
And that's why this whole "we'll give you a refund check" idea is so tricky. By the time you get that hypothetical $2,000, you may have already paid more in higher prices over several years, especially if you're low income and most of your budget goes to basics. So we have to ask, is this really a gift, or are people just getting a partial refund on what they already paid in hidden ways?
Layered on top of that is the legal fight. Trump used something called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, which was mostly designed for targeted sanctions to justify broad tariffs. The Supreme Court is now looking at whether that stretched the law too far. In oral arguments, several justices sounded skeptical about letting any president use emergency powers to effectively levy large-scale tariffs without clear congressional approval.
And here's the kicker. If the court says, no, you can't do that, then a lot of that tariff money doesn't become a people's piggy bank. It likely has to be refunded to the importers who paid it. So instead of $2,000 to households, you could see billions flowing back to big chains, manufacturers, maybe some smaller import-heavy businesses. Regular families get nothing directly.
So, big fork in the road. Uphold the tariffs. Money stays in the government's hands. Congress could, in theory, pass something like this rebate. Strike them down. Refund tsunami to importers, and the whole Trump check narrative is combat ineffective, dead on arrival.
Meanwhile, people are already being targeted. There are emails, texts, social media posts saying, "Click here to claim your Trump refund check." A lot of them go after seniors, disabled people, folks who don't have stable banking. I've seen reports of unbanked communities, we're talking millions of people, getting flooded with this junk. They're asked for social security numbers, bank logins, even fees to process the check. Pure exploitation.
And the timing's especially bad because the IRS has been shifting more and more to digital payments and direct deposit. On one level, that's efficient. On another, it leaves people who rely on paper or who don't have bank accounts at the back of the line. If any real program comes, they're the ones who'll struggle to access it, and they're also the easiest for scammers to confuse.
So real talk. Today, there is no official portal, no application, no legit website where you can sign up for a Trump refund. If someone's promising you immediate money, especially if they want your login or a fee, that's your red flag. Close the tab, hang up the phone, talk to a trusted family member or tax pro before you click anything.
All right, let's run some scenarios, battlefield style. Best case for the Trump check idea. Supreme Court blesses the tariffs. Congress actually passes a bill like the American Worker Rebate Act, and the IRS gears up to push out payments. You could be looking at tens of millions of households getting something like $2,000 each, maybe late 2026 or so, if everything moved fast. Big if.
Economically, that looks like a short-term sugar rush. You'd see a jump in consumer spending, people catching up on bills, maybe fixing the car, maybe splurging a bit. That tends to boost GDP for a quarter or two. But one-off checks don't fix structural problems, and they can add a bit of inflation pressure, especially if tariffs have already nudged prices up across the board.
And from a justice perspective, we have to ask who's still left out even in that best case. Undocumented workers, people who don't file taxes, the unbanked, they often miss programs like this. Yet they feel the higher prices from tariffs every time they buy food or clothes. So you get this irony. The people most squeezed by the cost increases might be the ones least likely to see the refund.
Now flip it. Worst case for the refund check crowd. Supreme Court says those IEEPA tariffs went too far. They're invalid, and that money legally belongs back with the importers. Then the tariff dividend to households disappears. Instead, you've got big retailers, manufacturers, maybe passing some of that savings through in lower prices. Or maybe not.
Yeah, that's the key question. If companies suddenly get billions in tariff refunds, do you see a clean, quick drop in prices? Sometimes competition forces that, but it's not automatic. Firms could use the cash to pay down debt, buy back stock, invest in automation. There's no built-in guarantee that the family at the checkout line sees a proportional benefit.
Right. You might get a few bucks shaved off certain imports, but nobody's mailing you a statement saying, "Congrats, here's the tariff savings on your toaster." It's invisible, and that makes it hard for regular folks to know if they actually got anything back.
And inequality is baked into both paths. In the check scenario, people who are already somewhat connected, stable address, bank account, filed taxes, are the ones most likely to receive the money. In the corporate refund scenario, shareholders and executives are well positioned to benefit first. Meanwhile, the same vulnerable groups, elderly, disabled, low income, unbanked, keep facing scams promising fake Trump checks and are constantly at risk of having what little they have stolen.
So let's come back to 3 questions for listeners. 1. Who's actually paying for these tariffs? Answer: mostly you, through higher prices. 2. Who's guaranteed to be helped? Right now, nobody. There is no law that locks in a $2,000 check. 3. What should you do today? Stay skeptical, verify everything, and assume that if someone is rushing you to claim money, it's a trap.
From a strategy lens, this is still a live chess match. The court, Congress, the next administration, they're all moving pieces. The only safe assumption is that the situation will change, and a lot of headlines will overpromise along the way.
And while that plays out, remember there are real people behind these debates. Your grandparents getting scam calls, your neighbor who doesn't have a bank account, the single parent choosing between rent and groceries. Policy isn't just numbers, it's whose lives get easier and whose get riskier.
Copy that. Bottom line, don't let a campaign slogan manage your finances until you see an actual law from Congress signed and official IRS guidance. Treat Trump refund checks as a rumor, not a paycheck.
All right, let's land this plane. We'll keep tracking the Supreme Court case, any movement on that American Worker Rebate Act, and the scam landscape. When something real changes, you'll hear about it here.
Good session, team. Stay alert out there, folks, both to legal developments and to anyone trying to weaponize your hope.
Take care of yourselves and look out for the vulnerable people around you. If an offer sounds too good to be true, talk it over with someone you trust before you click.
All right, squad, duke out. Keep your boots dry and your info locked down.
This is Chukwuka. Thanks for listening to the new Sentinel. Stay smart, stay skeptical, and we'll catch you on the next one.